We will begin the Alpena County Board of Commissioners Finance Ways and Means Committee meeting for Tuesday, July 9th at 9:30. First action is to do a roll call.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Here.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Here.
Commissioner Lalone. Here. Commissioner Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Fournier. Here. Commissioner Konashevsky.
Here.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Here.
Commissioner Francisco.
Here. Next, if you would all please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we adopt, I ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. I would like to add in the motion to rise and report portion of our meeting, after the IT director, Logan Kemp, and before correspondence, add in library discussion on the way ahead. We'll add that. Are there any other additions or omissions that we wish to make before I ask for a support and order and support to adopt the amended agenda?
I'll make the motion to adopt
I
it.
have a motion from Commissioner LaHaye to adopt the amended agenda. Do I have support?
I support.
I have support from Commissioner Ludlow. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of adopting the amended agenda indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion is carried. The adopted agenda, the modified agenda is adopted. Next item on our agenda is public comment, limited to 3 minutes per person. Just please state your name. And then we have we're asking that they also fill out a comments card, correct?
If they could, yeah.
Okay, if they would, just so we can get back to them.
Correct.
Is there anyone here for public comment? Anybody on Zoom, Kim? Okay, I will close public comment. Next item on the agenda are bills to pay. And I have one question from the bills to pay. It was an invoice distribution in Fund 214 to Berger Chevrolet for $3,415 for 3 rear gun locks. Sheriff, please.
Good morning. Commissioner already spoke with me and I said I'd just get up and explain. It's a lot easier. So a few years ago, when we went with Enterprise to get the patrol cars outfitted, we were using a outfitting company in Grand Rapids. That's where Berger Chevrolet is, the dealership. The company was called Great Lakes Outfitting. They did a very poor job. They couldn't keep up. The car industry was having a hard time anyways with supply and demand because we were coming out of COVID. Long story short, we ended up going to a different outfitter. In fact, we got 2 sets of cars. Half of them were 22s, half of them were 23s. We got our 23s before we got the 22s just because it was all messed up. Long story short, after the project was done, just about a month ago, Berger contacted me with an outstanding bill from Canfield, which was the second company that we got our outfitting done. That bill was actually supposed to be ours and should have been paid for, back in late 22. They just were delayed in getting it to us. So that's why we have a bill for $3,000 or $200, whatever it is. I wasn't very happy, but it's money we owe to them, so we had to pay it.
Okay, understand. Thank you, Sheriff. Are there any questions for the sheriff?
Obviously, they weren't in any rush to get it if it took them like 2 years to send us a bill.
So obviously, we're doing Enterprise, Berger Chevrolet. I don't have anything good to say about our experience in getting patrol cars. I'll just leave it at that. So I won't go again to Berger.
Thanks, Sheriff. Anyone else? Are there any questions on any of the bills to be paid?
The question that I had was on the data processing. There was a huge credit, 1,366, and then I'm assuming the invoice for 7,800 was something to offset that.
Do you know what department it was from?
That's Department 228.
You know who it was to?
Office 365 license. Oops.
That's our email.
Or email, yeah.
So we had, but a huge credit. So did they, is Logan?
$5,366.90, and then a one-year commit annual bill of $7,846.59.
Looks like our new IT director. is here.
That'd be the person, yeah.
Thank you for being here, Logan.
So we had a credit because we changed our licensing and the time of when the renewal was, so they had to credit back a year's worth of 100 and some licenses. So that's where that $5,000 credit comes from.
Okay,
The invoice total was actually 2,700, I believe.
okay, all right, that makes sense, thanks.
Thank you, Logan.
Thank you.
Board, are there any other questions regarding bills to pay? If not, I have a motion from Commissioner Peterson to adopt the bills to pay. Do I have support?
Support.
I have support from Commissioner Fournier. Roll call, please.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Lalone,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier. Yes. Commissioner Konashevsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes,
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. Motion is passed, carried. Next on our agenda, we have Ryan Breggy, Managing Director of the Alpena County Road Commission. Mr. Breggy, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Had a couple conversations with a few of you. I guess jumping right into it. COVID actually reduced our revenue significantly. We derive most of our monies from fuel and weight taxes. And of course, if people aren't driving, people aren't paying road tax. I did a discussion with the board, I believe it was in 2022, some of you were here. Estimated revenue loss was about $835,000. In reading some of the news, I know that the county is struggling. And I know that there's been some discussion on how to appropriately spend the remaining ARPA money that the county has received. And that's somewhat when a light bulb went off. And that's in relation to a project that has been in the works since 2003. This area-wide comprehensive transportation plan was created and identified as a high priority, extending Third Street down to Tamarack and paving Tamarack up to M32. The problem with that is our board has made it a priority. They have tasked me with finding a way to fund this project. But because it's a local road, 50% or more of the funds have to come from somewhere besides our sources. Generally, that's a township. So we have committed to doing a design survey, doing soil studies, and we do have a preliminary estimate at this time, and we're looking at about $2 million. That means I need $1 million from somewhere else, and that's quite a burden for a township. So when, I saw some of the news reports about the remaining ARPA money, I thought, well, it would be an interesting time to approach the county board. I know that things are financially struggling, but, if the board were to want to spend that money some other way than propping up the general fund, I think that would be a very important use of that money to finally complete a project that's been in the works for a lot of years. There's a lot of safety concerns at the junior high. I've talked to the sheriff about it. And incidentally, I did sit down to talk with the sheriff and the undersheriff because I know a lot of people are pointing at the sheriff's department as a way to reduce some of the debt. And this is by no means an attack on any department in this county. I just wanted to put that out there that this is a possibility. When this study was completed, the estimate for that project was $900,000. So we've over doubled what that project's going to cost since then. There are some community concerns, specifically in the Barrington Circle subdivision. I've got some emails from some folks that were wanting to put together a petition to stop it. Obviously, this is a not in my backyard type situation. Speed is a concern. I've got some ideas how I can address that in this project. And one other thing I would like to point out, we've got a lot of congestion on M32. This obviously would relieve a lot of that congestion. I know a lot of people point at MDOT and say, this is MDOT's problem. It's really not. It's a community problem. Anytime we allow development, we promote congestion. There's been a lot of accidents at the new Aldi. How many, I guess I forgot to ask, but where this would come out would be west of Aldi. So right there alone, you could probably relieve some of that congestion. I know there's already calls for a traffic light there. You put in a traffic light and you just start to create more congestion. So if we can move that to the west, that would be better for everyone too. So that's my proposal, or just a suggestion. Does anyone have any questions?
I do. Alpena Township.
Yep.
Charter Township. How much are they willing to put in?
I can't speak directly for Nathan. Nathan did want to be here. He couldn't, he's tied up across the street in court. He does support the project. Generally, they put in, this year's a good example. We've got a project on Lake Winya Road. He's able to come up with $125,000 for that. Usually we see somewhere around $150,000 a year if we want to do a special project with them. I would suspect, and again, I can't speak for him, that he would be willing to try and find ways to fund more of that if he could. If we could get part of it, certainly.
Has the school been addressed at all? Because this is definitely a safety issue with the school. Are they willing to make a commitment as well?
They are not. I haven't spoken to them recently. But I had some grant funding ideas that would have to be spearheaded by the school, and they weren't willing to do that. So I haven't really had any conversations since then with them.
Is the project also able to be broken into stages? Could we start 1 year with Tamarack Road and then the next year finish out Third to meet it?
Typically, we want to do everything all at once because mobilization costs end up costing so much. Mobilization is generally 10% of a project. So when you're looking at $1 million, it's $100,000 for them to come in this year and then $100,000 for them to come in next. Whereas that gets reduced when they can just mobilize all their equipment in and do it all at once.
Okay. And for anybody that isn't aware, I mean, I live very close to it. And when I'm telling you, with the busing issues and everything, you can't imagine how bad the congestion is. And the biggest concern is if there was ever an emergency to get an ambulance down there and to get out or to get children in and out, it would impossible. It is terrible. I've sent a lot of pictures to Mr. Skibby. I've had many conversations with Mr. Skibby about it as well, because I was aware of usually the township joins and we had, was that last year, Eric, that little girl was ran over by the Tahoe?
Yeah, a couple of them.
Yeah, there's been many issues with the children with vehicles.
Yeah, I personally, and I know that you guys have important decisions to make. I see this as probably our best chance of ever making this happen. I have beaten every bush for grant funding sources that I can obtain. They're just not out there for this type of project.
Why was the school not willing to work with you on grant proposals?
They were gonna have to put some work into it. There's grants available for what's called Safe Routes to Schools. But it required a parent survey and it didn't go any farther than that. I've kept all the emails from back when I was trying to do that way back then.
You would think that something that would benefit the school, they would be totally on board with this.
Yeah.
I find that interesting because the school is really banging on the door about the new pool, but less interested with the safety of expanding that road.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't had a conversation recently with them, but there was no interest when I did.
Maybe we could double back with the superintendent.
Sure.
Some of us could attend the Board of Education meeting with the superintendent there and talk to the board and ask the question.
Sure.
There may be some restrictions too on how they can.
They may.
There may be.
They may not be allowed to.
Well, I thought what you just indicated was the name of the grant would be in their name. They would be applying for the grant.
We would apply for the grant, but they have to perform the study, is what it was. It's a complicated grant system. Doesn't really align all that well. Safe Routes to Schools focuses more on non-motorized routes. But we were gonna try and spin it that we would have safer non-motorized if the traffic had another way out. You know, that, like I said, in this situation, there are not a lot of grants that work.
Ryan, what was the name of that grant again?
Safe Routes to Schools.
Okay, thank you.
Board, are there any other questions for Mr. Breggy? If not, Ryan, thanks for being here today. We appreciate it. We know we thought a year ago or so, we've had a discussion on this. And so we will consult each other and take a look at, as we get a little closer to the end of our budget year. So how long is it that do you think you are confident that you can get that money, your 50%?
My board,
Quickly, do you need a decision, I guess?
my board has indicated that our budget year runs different than yours. I mean, they've indicated it's a priority. We maintain a fairly healthy fund balance.
Okay.
I'm certain we could do this next year.
Okay.
And I do want to point out too, I mean, I think you were looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $860,000, but and I'm certain, well, I know the township's on board. I mean, even if there's part of that could help the township get to that basically $1 million, that would help tremendously.
Thanks for being here today. Are there any last chance for any other questions for Mr. Breggy? If not, again, sir, thank you for being here today. We'll certainly take it under advisement.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda is the prosecutor's office to approve the fiscal year 25 crime victim rights grant application for the prosecutor's office in the amount of $7,079 with no county match, and to authorize the chairman of the board and/or the county administrator to sign all particular or pertaining documents. Do we have anyone here from the prosecutor's office? Okay, good morning. Thank you for being here. So you are,
I'm Julie Jackson. I'm the victim rights coordinator.
okay, and you are looking for approval to complete the approval for the FY25 crime victim rights grant application. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about the grant?
The grant is completely state funded and it pays our salaries. It pays for direct victim needs. For instance, a certain amount of it is set aside and that pays for things like if somebody needs cameras for their home, new locks on their doors, gas cards to come to meetings with the prosecutor. It covers things like that. It covers our supplies. Like I said, it's 100% grant funded, our position is, and it just covers all victim needs.
Okay. Well, thank you. Anyone from the board have questions for Ms. Jackson?
The only question I have is, so where is this grant? Because normally when we get requests, we normally have a chance to review that grant.
I did submit it with the paperwork. Commissioner's office.
So I believe it's attached, yeah.
Yeah. Page 9, I believe.
I
It is.
downloaded this stuff, so I'm gonna.
Pretty general one-page application, it appears.
And we've all signed it. The review committee's already signed it. Asking for approval. Take a look at it. There, but
It's in the packet.
It's in.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
yeah, it's, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right, very good. Okay, if we don't have any further questions for Ms. Jackson, I'll look for a motion and support for approval of the FY25 crime victim rights grant application in the amount of $77,079 with no county match.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Fournier, support from Commissioner Lalone. Any questions at all? I believe in this one, we do not have to do a roll call. Let's do it anyway. Good practice for us, I guess. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson, Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Konachevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. Motion is carried, and thank you for presenting that to us today, Ms. Jackson. We appreciate it. Next on our agenda is Detective Lieutenant Stuart Sharp from Hunt and MSP. Good morning, sir.
Morning. So I'm here today to request permission from the board to initiate the Burn Justice Assistance Grant and ultimately, approximately July 23rd, approve the award of the grant. So Burn JAG has been a grant that's been available for almost 30 years to fund narcotics investigations and various resources. We require that to support us as one of our primary funding sources, and it covers essentially our administrative costs of vehicles.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Real quick, two questions. One, how much is the grant you're going to ask for? Because right now we're showing the blanks.
That's kind of where I'm at in life, but.
Okay.
So, side note, my administrative assistant is not available for health reasons lately, so it's put me behind the eight ball.
Okay.
I anticipate requesting about $85,000 this year.
85,000?
The intent over my tenure at Hunt was to reduce the reliance on the funding from Burn JAG. 6-7 years ago, I had received 150,000. So I've worked that request down to about 85,000 this year.
And is this from the state? You call it the Burn JAG?
Yeah, it's a federal grant administered by the Michigan State Police.
Okay. So I'll look for a motion and support. I have a motion from Commissioner Peterson. Do I have support?
Support.
I have support from Commissioner Fournier to approve the Hunt grant application, the amount of approximately $85,000 with no county match, and to authorize the chairman of the board and or county administrator to sign all pertaining documents as presented. And Mr. Lieutenant Sharp, is under a deadline to submit the grant of 20 July, so we got about 14 days to get this done.
Right. I guess the big question is, will there be any vacation schedules that will inhibit me from reaching my deadline to get that grant accepted?
I hope not on this end, but.
All right.
So I look we have a motion and support. Is there any other discussion? I think we have a motion and support there.
Yes.
Okay, I thought we did.
Yes, sir.
Starting to lose the senior citizens election issue. Seems to be on TV a lot too, but anyway, let's see. So I have motion and support. Let's look for a roll call, please.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Konachevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. Thank you, Detective Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
See you Friday.
Next on the agenda is our airport manager, Steve Smigelski. See Steve in the gallery here today.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First item that I have for you is a FAA invoice payment. This would be for a flight check of the new nav aids that have been installed out at the airport. When you have new nav aids, or like when the ILS is shut down for 30 days or more, you have to actually bring an aircraft in and physically fly the approaches to make sure that everything is still calibrated and still good to go. This cost of $23,711.94 is reimbursable when the grant closes out.
State the amount again, Steve, if you would.
$23,711.94.
Thank you. I would like to take each of these memos separately. So any other introduction of this invoice payment memo, Steve?
Not really.
That's fine. I look for a motion in support for the payment of the FAA invoice payment as provided by the airport manager. The amount of $23,711.94, and that's in your budget, I assume?
Where are you gonna pay for it from?
I'll be taking it from the airport cash reserve, which is.
But that's just cash. That doesn't tell me the expense line item, because that was the one I questioned with the auditors.
5,000,001.000.
So you're just putting everything under a consulting fee.
Yes.
but this isn't actually consulting.
Yeah, that's,
So that's why we need to know, you have to pay for stuff out of, this is not consulting. So what is this? And that's where you would look for the line item, the expense line item to pay for it from. Even though it's reimbursable by the grant, that is not what grant is it going to be reimbursed from? Where are we originally paying for this project?
that's where I would ask for your assistance in this. Is there a specific line number that,
This is what I'm saying, that is your job as the manager to go over those. And if you're unaware of that, where they need to go, then we need to determine where was this originally paid for, this work on the runway? Because this is part of that expense. It's not a consulting fee separate. It's part of the repair. It's part of the whole cost. So I guess until such a time that you have those where we even pay them out of, I know you want to take the cash out of the airport fund. But what if this project was actually paid for out of the runway rehabilitation fund, which is a whole separate fund? Then we're not even paying for it out of the right fund.
It sounds to me, Steve, like you have a little more homework to do, and if you could get with the treasurer offline before we bring this back up, and even if we have to do Jesse, even if we have to do a poll vote for the future, and then we can look at it in 2 weeks, but
So, and these emails did start back and forth with the auditor yesterday.
okay.
So we're still kind of waiting on more directions. We can't even begin to tell you or create a line item if we don't know what projects these are specifically attached to
That's for both of the,
and where they were paid from.
and Kim, is that for both of these, the RSNH invoice payment also?
That's for the RSNH invoice for the runway sweeper, the RSNH invoice. It says for pavement design and lighting rehabilitation. So again, this may be a consulting, but it's still part of the cost of when that pavement and lighting design and rehab, that's all part of that project. And the same thing with, well, he's got two here, the rehab for runway 119. So all of those need to be attached to those to those projects, not just a consulting fee.
Okay, got it. So we will not take action on the airport managers 1 and 2. Can we take action on item number 3, the budget adjustments overtime? You don't have the line item for that one either, I assume?
That you do have.
Okay, very well.
Because, but here's, and the reason that has to come to the full board is he is taking, he's increasing a wage line item, which cannot be done by department head. That only can be done by the board. Yes.
So Steve, we're not going to do 1 and 2. We'll do 11.3, which is the budget overtime
I have a question,
adjustment.
sorry, about the invoice. Are you going to be submitting an invoice for 23,711.94? Is that what you said? Because that amount is not on the attached invoice. So I just,
Right, there's no invoice to even go with this.
right, so I didn't know if you had one, and that's fine if you have one. I just want to be, are you going to be submitting one for that amount, or is this the actual invoice?
that's the one that's got the FAA on it?
It just says RSNH. Yeah. Just to make sure, because I don't want to. This one's for 25,000 and this one is for 27,000, so. If you have another one. So you're going to be submitting then, and then you're going to be submitting another one for 23,000?
I thought I'd sent it.
Okay, okay, that's fine. If you want to send that one in then.
Okay, so 1 and 2, we're going to just table to have further work on it, working with the clerk's office and the treasurer office, and the airport manager can provide the information that they need. The third item, though, is a budget adjustment for overtime wages. Oh,
Okay. Mr. Higgins is pretty much running the refueling program out at the airport. And with the Civil Air Patrol that was in for the first week of July, he was coming in sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning to refill the tanker truck so that they could go out and, because we were filling the CAP planes twice a day. Filling the aircraft alone took, in 3 and 4 hours to fill all the aircraft. Say pushed over what is normal time at the airport would have been.
Okay, so you are asking for the board to approve the adjustment, to do a budget adjustment for overtime wages. And then during this time, Mick was serving as a county employee and not a contract employee for Alpena Ground Services. Is that correct? Because we had some questions there.
He was working.
Okay, he was on county time at that point. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Steve regarding the budget adjustment for overtime wages?
What is the amount?
$1,500.
$1,500.
So the question that I have is, it says currently at 18,000. The overtime budget is at 18,000 and we're gonna add additional 1,500?
No, that's the 100 low lead purchase line. It's currently at 18,723.
That's what's available budgeted to spend out of the expense line item for the low lead.
I have a question.
Sure.
So this 1,500, does this catch him up? Does this catch Mick up on what he's owed for overtime? And if it does, to what date?
This catches him up for everything that's been submitted thus far.
Okay,
There's a little extra in there just in case this week here, the extra, they'll take care of that as well.
so this would be, he would be square by the end of this week.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for the airport manager? If not, I will look for a motion and support to approve the budget adjustment for overtime wages. The assistant airport manager.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Lalone.
I'll support.
I have support from Commissioner Ludlow. And Kim, you're all set with the line item number with? That? Okay, very well. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Lalone,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes, and just a reminder, we will, items one, the FAA invoice payment and the RSNH are still pending for you to get that squared away with the staff. Other than that, thanks for being here. So, sorry.
One more thing, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We have a meeting Thursday morning. Why don't we, since some of these invoices are a couple of years old, hopefully we can figure that out before then. And we can make sure everything's in order and then Jesse can put a poll vote out for Thursday.
Okay, we can do that.
Perfect.
That works too.
Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
Very good.
Roll.
Next on our agenda is from our treasurer, Kim Ludlow, and I want to provide an open apology to Kim because last month during the finance meeting, they accidentally omitted her to provide her briefing on our status. So Kim, I hope you accept my apology. It was not intentional.
Most certainly. And we definitely want to have transparency for everyone. So
Yes, ma'am.
here we go.
So the floor is yours, ma'am.
So at the beginning of this year, we had an audited fund balance for the general fund of $3,597,408.09. You'll notice that is $900,000 less than where we started the previous year with an audited fund balance. As of June 30th, we have collected $3,884,562.31 and had expenditures of $6,347,149.40.59, leaving a fund balance at the end of June of $1,134,329.81. You'll see last year at this time, we had a fund balance of $1,483,000. So we're down about 300,000 there. I do want to point out, if we look at our balance sheet as of June 30th, we have no CDs or no other investments. We have a savings of $563,231 and then cash of $430,000. As of here about an hour ago, we have $220,000 left in our checking account. So to cover this payroll Friday, I will be moving roughly 300,000 from that savings account into cash to make sure we have enough money to cover the payroll, keep the bills paid. We will start seeing our county operating revenue come in on or about July 20th, sorry. So hopefully it'll be close, but we'll be watching that cash flow very closely. And just so you are aware of that. So at this time of year, we'd be at a perfect world, 50% of our budgeted revenue and expense. So far this year, we're at 33% of our budgeted revenue. Last year, we were at 31%. And our budgeted expenses were at 47%, 47.96. Last year, we were at 51%.
So for our expenses up through June of 24, we're close to where would be the ideal amount. However, our revenues are still about.
Right. Well, and we don't live in an ideal world.
Right, absolutely.
40% of our revenue, which is our county operating, doesn't come in until the end of July. So we're living off of savings, so to speak, for 7 months out of the year. So it's not a perfect 50-50 world.
Absolutely.
If you do look at the comparison sheet that I put together for you, if you notice last year at the end of June, we had spent $2,966,000 more than what we brought in. This year at the end of June, we have spent $2,463,000 more than we brought in, which is a positive for us. That is, $500,000 less. So yeah, we spent $900,000 of our fund balance last year. Yep, our cash flow is really close. But we have spent $500,000 less as of June 30th of our fund balance, which is a good thing because we don't have it to spend, than we did the year before. Lots of moving parts.
That comparison is very helpful, by the way. Thank you.
No problem.
And I'd like to bring up the topic of the email that you sent the other day from the audit report from the state treasury, I believe, Kim, that requires us to do an explanation of why for the past 3 years, our expenditures are exceeding our revenues. So we have to do a reply back to the state treasurer. Is that correct?
Within 30 days, it does hit our credit.
Okay.
Can we get one of these? This is something the administrator and the auditor have been working on. I think they plan on the next couple of days to have that addressed.
Okay. I assume, John, we would like to see that before it goes out. As the reply or response.
I had sent an email asking about that as well.
Okay. All right.
Just another point that, yep, the state is watching.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Anything else on the monthly reports, Kim, at this time? If not, I'm going to look for a motion to receive and file the treasurer's report. I have a motion from Commissioner Peterson to receive and file the treasurer's report for June 2024. Do I have support?
Support.
I have support from Commissioner Kozlowski, from Chair Kozlowski. Any further discussion? Roll call, please. I know it's just a receive and file, but I want everybody to voice vote this so that we are aware of what she provided to us.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner LaLonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. And Kim, on the second quarter budget adjustments, please.
So you have second quarter budget adjustments. You can see where we have our audited numbers now from 23. We showed revenue of $12,575,075 with expenditures of $13,479,628. At the end of March, you had an adopted budget of $11,904,239 of revenue with adopted expenditures of $13,402,037, showing a budgeted fund deficit or budget deficit of $1,497,798. After reviewing where we were and all of our adjustments with the audits and so on and so forth, Our recommendation for the second quarter budget adjustments brings our revenue to $11,817,803. You have not quite $100,000 reduction in budgeted revenue. I will note that we had a $200,000 reduction in revenue per the auditor as we were counting money coming back from the housing fund as revenue, and it was indicated this should not be counted as revenue. So that's majority of your reduction that you're seeing there. We didn't gain any real headway in revenue for the second quarter. In expenditures, we're at 13,248,878, which again is just not quite 200,000 less. So again, this was an adjustment with the auditor. There was 200,000 in expenses that we had budgeted that the auditor has indicated should not be an expense, but yet again, a due from. This was with the housing. So that's why you're seeing the reduction here and not a lot of gain. We're still looking at using $1,431,775 a year fund balance, provided that we spend everything that's budgeted to be spent and receive everything that's budgeted to come in.
And just as a caveat to that for the rest of the board, obviously, that's why our chairman gave us our assignments to go back and work with department heads to determine if there's any available savings or budgeted expenses that may not be actually executed. So just as a caveat. Anything else, Kim?
Questions?
Any questions for Kim? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion and support to approve the second quarter budget adjustments for 2024 as presented.
I'll make that
The
motion.
motion from Commissioner Lalonde. Do I have support?
Support.
Support from Commissioner Fournier. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Konashevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski,
Yes.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Lalonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco.
Yes. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
It appears that unless we have any other finance business to discuss, that concludes the finance portion of the meeting. And I will look for a motion to rise and report to close the committee meeting and turn the meeting over to our chairman.
Make the motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner LaHaye. Do I have support? I have support from Commissioner Ludlow. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion is carried. Sir?
Okay. First up is we have the consent calendar. Had a chance to look at the items on the consent calendar. So I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar items.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Fournier. I'll support. Support by Commissioner Konashevsky. Any discussion? If not, all those in roll call, roll call.
Commissioner LaHaye,
Yes.
Commissioner Ludlow,
Yes.
Commissioner Lalonde,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Francisco,
Yes.
Commissioner Konashevsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowski.
Yes. Next item is a poll vote, and this is just for informational. The poll vote was for the contract with the lots, and as the county administrator just pointed out at the beginning, that was sent over to the title company. So we should be good there. So that, again, this is just more of an informational item. If anyone has any questions, if not, we'll move on. Next up is the IT Director, Logan Kemp, with the new IT procurement and purchasing policy.
And requesting the approval of a technology purchasing policy, which essentially states that any technology purchase, regardless of the fund that it originates from, so instead of just general fund or equipment fund, it'd be airport parks, that they have to go through the IT department first to get at least some approval.
have you been having issues with this? Because, I mean, obviously, the first thing that comes is if you have different departments purchasing different items that either aren't compatible or we're duplicating purchases, this seems to make sense to me.
The past, we've had more of an issue with that. Recently, it's been much better. The IT department has a good working relationship with our departments. But previously, we've had minor issues with it, but this just sets formal standards.
Does the contract with the city have any, would that play into this, or could that be an issue?
I think that's gonna be a discussion that we have with them during contract negotiations. This would just be for county departments.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully everyone had a chance to review the policy.
I just have one question, John, if I may. I know Central Dispatch has a lot of different software requirements there. Have you talked with, I'm going to assume that you've talked with Kim and you have an agreement or arrangement with her?
Yep, and there's a provision in here that if it's just priorly arranged, then they can purchase. And that's something that for instance, the dispatch radio equipment.
Right.
That's not necessarily something that we administer, so she would be figuring that.
That specifically, that's what I had, because there are things that they have to have contracts with outside consultants, et cetera. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'd look for a motion to approve the IT department's technology purchasing policy as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Francisco.
Support.
By Commissioner Peterson. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Logan.
So the item that we did add for discussion update. What did you?
I call it, the way ahead, if you
Okay,
will.
yeah, way ahead. So just and I'll start off by, we do have, and I don't know if everyone saw the emails, but we do have an informational thing added to the full board, I believe, full board on the 23rd. So that way we can have all the commissioners there, have an open discussion. And if anyone has any questions, I know the last one, which was at the facilities, we had a couple commissioners that were there. I think this gives us the ability to have everybody participate, give their point of view. I don't know if anybody else has any other discussion that they wanted to add to that.
Just who is this attorney that's coming from LS&S? Jesse, if you, because I don't know who he is and what they actually provide and.
I mean, it was described to me, it was basically the attorney that the American Library Association and our local library works with, that gives them guidelines on book placement, what they legally can and cannot do. I don't have the name readily handy, but I can.
That's okay. I don't need the name because that was in there. I just didn't know what LS&S, what they represented.
Oh, okay.
And why this particular attorney.
You trying to find them?
Yeah, but you can continue discussion.
Okay, so just so, like I said, I think Jesse and I were talking that trying to figure out what the next step would be. And it just made more sense to have all the commissioners be able to participate in any discussion and information that we get from the individual that will be providing that additional information to us. I'm not sure. I do know one thing that I've been communicating with correspondence that I've been getting in emails. And I don't think personally the people that have responded to me, I think they've assumed that I should take their side, but I still have an opinion and I've portrayed that opinion in my emails when I reply back to them. I don't know if anybody else has had an opportunity to get any emails from their constituents or just members in the community.
I have, and that's why I asked this be brought to, instead of to take it from facilities to full board, because I've had a number of my constituents and just other people of the within the county that have asked me, so what are you doing? And I didn't want to give the answer of, I don't know, because that's all I could do at the time, because we haven't had the full board. So I appreciate you bringing this gentleman in or this attorney in who's going to provide a presentation to the full board so we can ask questions, and then I can at least tell constituents that we do have this going on, and the next meeting to discuss would be at the full board. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I've already told some individuals that reached out to me again, what's the future discussion with this? And I mentioned that it'll be discussed at the next. So I don't know if there's any other comments, discussion on this item.
Do
If
we
not,
know if they did end up having, I know it was an emergency meeting?
they did not.
That they did it all. Yeah, no.
I-
Again, part of my concern that I
Yeah.
wanted to bring this to full board, because we had heard there's going to be an informational meeting of some sort
Sure.
that never transpired. So
I fielded 2 phone calls yesterday. I'm getting at least a dozen emails a week. I fielded 5 or 6 phone calls last week. A couple were on the holiday, which thumbs up on that. It's there, I don't know if anybody else is, but I'm getting blown up, and nothing is in support of the controversial books. It is the other direction.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, and if nothing else, we'll move on. Correspondence, we have a couple of correspondence, the Recovery Center thank you letter. Everybody had a chance to,
yeah, just as a quick overview, that is one of the 3 different opioid settlement disbursements that we made. It was recommended by the Northeast Michigan Recovery Network Executive Committee. So the board approved what the subject matter experts recommended. And this is Dr. Beatty's thank you letter to all of us for providing that award out of the opioid stimulant or the opioid settlement fund budget. So.
right, and again, I know, because I've heard people talk and so just so everyone is clear that, this isn't money that we get to arbitrarily spend how we want to, where we want to. There's certain things that we can, and you've been really taking on that charge there to figure out, work with the community partners to figure out how best to spend that. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. My pleasure.
If no other questions on or discussion on that one, the next one was the
Huron County resolution.
Huron County resolution, and again, that was attached. That pulled up. So I don't have to read this, do I?
No.
Okay.
No, their board just requested it be sent to
Okay.
county commission boards throughout the state.
Basically, this is the resolution that Huron County is forwarding to us. Again, a lot of times if anybody's interested as a commissioner and they decide they want to bring this forward, have the opportunity to review this and then look at it and maybe decide whether this is something that any one of us wants to move forward for the county, for Alpena County. We can either do that at the next meeting, if you would like to add it. But again, just for your review, if you have any questions, we can get the answers to that. No other comments on that. We'll move on to public comment. So the final public comment, if there's anybody that would wish to have a comment, step up, obviously, state your name so we know who you are. I don't know if any of us know who you are.
So I am Matt Walagora, resident of the city of Alpena, former mayor of the city. I'm here to speak to support of the Third Avenue expansion project that Mr. Briggy talked about earlier. I do want to clarify that I'm a former representative of the city and I'm not here specifically to represent the city itself. In my personal opinion, as far as growth goes and how we approach growth in our county and our city, is to look into the future of what might occur 5-10 years from now. And like I said, in my opinion, that project should have been addressed prior to the Thunder Bay Junior High being built there, but it was not. And here we are 20+ years later, still talking about a project that is still listed as a priority in our community. When it was first brought to my attention several years ago, there was some issues with the intersection at Third and Hobbs. And so we started to look at that. And my first thought was, what's 15 minutes of people dropping their kids off and buses going 15, 20 minutes of an issue first thing in the morning and in the afternoon. But as Commissioner Lalone mentioned, it's not. I went there because I didn't have kids. So I went there specifically to drive through that intersection during those time periods. And it's ungodly. It's unbelievable how bad it can get. So if you haven't done that, if you haven't experienced that personally, you're probably doing yourself a bit of a disservice just by not seeing how bad it can be. And then you compound that with maybe a school dances in the evening or a football game or anything else that goes on in that whole area. And then beyond that, of course, back at IG meeting last year, we had presentations from both of our public safety, fire and sheriff's department. And they spoke to the safety concerns and the public safety concerns of having a school of that size on a dead end road. And so, again, I'm here to speak in favor of it, and we fully support it. The city had always fully supported it. Unfortunately, it's just beyond our bounds, so we can't necessarily financially support it. What we can support is that intersection, and we've worked with the township and the school system, and we got right to this. I keep saying we because I was there so long, I'm sorry. So the city got, that close to getting it done this summer before school started up. And if you read just recently, there was a new regulations about light posts or something. And so the construction of those has delayed that project till the fall. But that project is only going to make it lighter there, a little bit wider, maybe a couple of, some better light structure with left-hand turn lanes and things of that nature. It's not going to change the amount of vehicles that have to pass through that intersection on a regular basis. So I see it as sort of not really a Band-Aid, but it's not gonna alleviate the issue. And then you compound that with all of the infrastructure that's going on West M32. That's not gonna stop. It's only gotten bigger and more. And so you've got all of those lights, and you can't light yourself into safe highways. That came directly from MDOT several years ago, and we were asking them to put extra lights in. It changes things a bit, but it doesn't alleviate it. And so, with that, I really, over the years, I can't really come up with any real reason not to do this project, with the very small exception of the residents that will affect. And as we all know, when you buy property, it doesn't necessarily give you the authority to change or not change everything that happens around you. So unfortunately, growth changes things. So I would ask you to focus on the public safety aspect, focus on the fact that nothing's going to change, but only get worse. The only thing that's going to change is it's going to be more expensive every year we push this project back, as we've seen over the course of the last 20 years. So everything is done.
You can have my 3 minutes.
The engineering, is somebody going to give
No,
me?
you're
like
good. You
30
have my
seconds?
3 minutes. Go for it.
You got an open mic and I'll just talk.
You miss it.
So, the engineering was done several years ago, and I don't think anything's really changed there. Mr. Brady pointed that out last year at the IG meeting, that pretty much everything is in place except for the funding. And as a resident, I would fully support my county tax dollars going to something that's gonna get us more ready for the future and the future growth that we've already started to see. So I thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom? No one on Zoom? Okay, I would then look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hay, support by Commissioner Fournier. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. We're adjourned.